You've heard the buzz about AI agents, automations, and no code. But how do you actually build automations? In 2025, one of the most powerful platforms to build no-code automations is n8n. Well, it's true you don't need to know how to program to use n8n. There's two fundamental concepts that come from programming, JSON and HTTP requests, that are absolutely crucial to understand if you want to build anything cool with n8n. In today's video, I'm going to explain exactly what JSON is, how it works, how to use it, and I'm also going to explain how the HTTP request node works so that you can start building your dream automation in n8n today. Whether you're launching a business or just exploring what's possible with automation, this tutorial is going to enable you to get started today in n8n and build out whatever you want. Welcome back to Tommy Codes. Let's get into the video. I've talked about Appify a lot on this channel, but it's a platform that allows you to do web scraping. And the example I want to go over is we're going to be using Appify to search through different terms. So here I have bars in Chicago. And what I want an automation to do is run this Appify scraper and then take the results and dump them into a Google Sheet. So relatively straightforward. Here's what the workflow actually looks like. And if we go over here, we can check out the input. And here I'm doing bars in New York. So if you click run here, that's going to go trigger Appify and then dump the results into this Google Sheet. As you can see, I'm using the HTTP request node, which is required because as of recording this video, there's no native integration for Appify in n8n. If we take a look at the configuration for this HTTP request node, we're going to notice that we're using a JSON body. And JSON is very fundamental to both n8n in general and also HTTP requests. So we're going to start with JSON. And to illustrate what JSON is, I want us to actually go back into the Appify UI and look at what's going on here. So in the Appify UI, if we look, I can type in search terms and I can type in a location, and there's a bunch of other options as well. So when I hit run here, that's fundamentally doing the same thing as my workflow over here, but we just get a nice screen attached to it. And let's look again at the inputs to this actor. We need to type in the search terms. That should make sense because if I want Appify to use Google Maps to scrape bars in New York City, then I probably have to type in bars in New York City somewhere. And there's a bunch of other results I mentioned. I want the results in English, and let's do 6, the max number of places. So when we're on the UI, I can just type in this information and everything can be handled automatically. But how does that actually work under the hood? How do computers actually communicate data like this between one another? Well, if we take a look here, we have this option to select either manual or JSON. So let's select JSON for a second. And we get this scary looking code-like object. Now, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's a way to package up data in a standardized format so that two computers can actually understand what the underlying ones and zeros mean. So this is what a JSON object looks like. And a JSON object is going to have properties and it's going to have values. Properties are also known as keys. So we would say this is the include web results key, and we would say the value is the Boolean false. So Boolean is going to either be true or false, so that's why we see false here. Language, this key or this property has the value of en. And because this value has double quotes, it's considered a string, and a string is going to be used to represent text data. If we look down here, max crawled places per search, that key has the value 6, and because there's no double quotes and because it's a number, this is going to be a number value, so it's going to be treated differently. This is important to note because if you do 6 in double quotes, that is not the same as 6 without the double quotes. With the double quotes, it's going to be treated as text. Without the double quotes, it's going to be treated as a number. And if we look down here, scrape context, this is also a Boolean false. Note that false with the double quotes is different than false without them because false with the double quotes is going to correspond to a string or a text value. Now let's switch back to manual for a second and let's go over here and change the search term from bars to parks. And then let's go back into the JSON. And if we'll notice here in the search string array, we're going to see parks. So let's go back to manual and let's add bars. So we're going to look up bars and parks. Now let's go into the JSON and let's notice that now this search string array has added the string bars. I should also point out that it's possible to use an array or list for a value or another JSON object. So you could also have a key in a JSON object that maps to another object. So we could do, some key, and that would be false. So this would also be valid. Okay, and then let's change bars to, office. Now let's go over to JSON. Now notice that this thing changed from bars to office. And then what happens if we change this from parks to bars? Cool. Let's go back to manual. And notice that this changed here. And the reason that I'm showing you guys this, and actually let's do another example. So location here, let's change this to Los Angeles. If I can spell Los Angeles. And then we hit JSON. Notice that location query now says Los Angeles instead of Chicago. Now, what keys and values you send are completely up to the application. They're completely up to the interpretation. Because we are sending this JSON body to this Apify actor, it's going to expect a certain set of keys and values, but valid JSON does not need to necessarily conform to a schema. This is the schema you would use if you happen to be talking to the Apify actor. And if we go over here and we change the number of places to extract from 6 to 7, and we go over into this JSON, note that max crawled places per search has changed from 6 to 7. So basically what happens is when you click save and start, your web browser is going to take all of this information in this form. And notice that search terms is in human readable English with spaces and capital letters. But when we go to the JSON, it says search strings array with this weird camel case going on. So your web browser, under the hood, when you're modifying the stuff in the form, is actually transforming that into a JSON object. And when you hit save and start, it is going to send the JSON object along with its HTTP requests to Apify. And so yes, when you hit save and start here, that is actually going to send an HTTP request. Where JSON comes up in n8n is actually in between any node, in addition to being used specifically in the HTTP request node. And what I mean by that is the inputs and outputs of every single node in n8n are going to be JSON, with the exception of the binary type. And you'll notice that you can switch between schema, table, and JSON, but those are all 100% equivalent. Those are just different views on the same data. So this is JSON, and we'll notice that the location key maps to the value New York. And the schema, we see location and New York. So that's the exact same thing. And same with the table. Now, if we go over here to the output, because this is the call to Apify, and I was limiting it to 5, we'll notice that our table has 5 items. And if we go into JSON, I was mentioning that a JSON object can actually be a list. And a list is going to start with the square brackets. The JSON object is going to start with the curly braces. So we would say that this JSON list has 5 objects within it, and each of the objects start and end with curly braces, and they're separated with commas. And notice that they have a bunch of different fields. So this JSON object looks different than this JSON object because they mean different things. This is the input to the Apify actor. This is the output of the Apify actor. So the schema or the keys look different because they are different things fundamentally. Also notice that in n8n, when you drag schema values over, you get this JSON syntax. And when you're working with JSON, what we're looking at here is actually a snippet of JavaScript code, but this $JSON variable is going to refer to the previous input. And we'll notice that each of the fields from the JSON object pop up in the autocomplete, and we can cycle between them. Note that if you refer to a key that doesn't exist, so place of interest without the T at the end is not actually valid on the input, and so that's why I'm getting this undefined here. This is kind of a nasty bug in n8n because this isn't going to throw an error necessarily. It's just going to send the value of undefined along with whatever node you're doing, which could throw an error if you're lucky, or it could just silently do something very weird. But the reason we have JSON, as I mentioned, is this is just a structured way to reference this data. Like if you just got a piece of text that said, oh, the title's Maloney's Cafe and the price is $1, there would be no way to parse that information out. And that's why we use JSON whenever we're passing data around in n8n. And that's also why we use JSON a lot in HTTP requests. So that's what JSON is at a high level. Now let's talk about HTTP requests. So right now, we're playing around with data that's living in my web browser. But I need to make a request to Apify's servers, and they need to know what the request is. They need to know what scraper I want to use. They need to know that it was actually me making the request so they can bill my accounts. And based on the scraper that I'm using, they need to know the particular parameters that I'm passing along. So all of that information needs to get sent, and the request needs to go to Apify's servers. So whenever you make an HTTP request, all of that information has to get passed along. And the HTTP request is just a standardized way of calling functions or running code across different computers. So let's take a look at the HTTP request node. There's method, there's URL, there's authentication, and there's query parameters, body, and header. So there's a lot of different fields. Just note that we're going to fill all of these out. So let's fill this out from scratch. Let's delete this. We're going to create a new HTTP request node, and we're going to do this all from scratch. So let's go over to Appify, and Appify has a bunch of API docs. And there's a lot of different stuff you can do. You can get actors, you can create actors, you can run actors synchronously with input and return output. Hint, hint, we're probably going to use something like this. Now, which endpoint? Let's talk about how you would find the correct API endpoint to actually use. And by the way, each of these things are called endpoints. So we would say the get list of actors endpoints. And if we notice here, this is the human readable name of the endpoint. So this is just what Appify is calling it in the documentation. And then here is the actual URL. So if you wanted to call the get list of actors endpoint, you would actually copy this guy and put it into the parameter for the URL. So there's a lot of different endpoints we could call here. Luckily with Appify, they make it a little easier on their UI. If you click this API thing and go to API endpoints, we're gonna get a bunch of different options. One of them is run actor. One of them is run actor synchronously. Now for Appify in particular, I'm just gonna tell you guys, usually you'd wanna use run actor synchronously and get data set items. This is going to run the actor and then it's gonna return to you the data in JSON format. So that's probably what we wanna use. Luckily what we can do here is we can copy this. But before we do that, let's take a look at the URL. So first up here, this is gonna be basically the Appify server. Then we're gonna have V2, so they're just versioning their API. You can ignore that. Then we have Axe. And this is just a convention, but this just happens to tell us that, hey, this is probably gonna have something to do with actors. Then we see the actual name of the actor. So it says compass tilde crawler Google Places. If you were using a different actor like the LinkedIn scraper, this little path variable here would be different. And by the way, this is called a path variable because this entire URL is sometimes called a path and different parts of the path can change and that's gonna have different behavior. So for the crawler Google Places actor, we are going to use the operation run sync get dataset items. And again, these particular names are completely up to Appify. So that's why Appify has documentation. They're just gonna define what their naming convention means and it's up to you to follow it. So this information is only relevant for Appify, but any service you're trying to hit is gonna publish something like this. Well, they should, some of them won't. And then you see this question mark. After the URL, you can optionally append what are called query parameters. So this is just one of a few different places where you can pass in parameters. And if we can see here, we are passing in a parameter called token. And in the case of Appify, I mentioned one of the things you have to tell in the HTTP request is, how does it know that it's actually me, Tommy, making the request? Well, Appify is going to give you what's called an API token. And this token you need to send along with every request. And you could think of this like a driver's license or some kind of legit ID that Appify will send to you when you create your account. And it's tied to you. So anytime you send this token or ID, it's going to know, oh, that was Tommy, we can bill him. And if you don't send a token, they're going to just reject your request. I should also know that this token is basically like your password, so you should keep it very secure. Anyway, we're going to hit copy here. And then we're gonna go ahead and paste this into the HTTP request URL. So that's step one. Step two is, what do we do with this method? So there's this thing in HTTP called verbs, and you'll see that they're post, get, put, del for delete. Don't really worry about what they mean. They're mainly just convention. Generally, del or delete is gonna mean delete a resource. Really, the only ones you're gonna use are get and post. Generally, post, it's just, the difference is mainly with the type of data you would pass and where you're gonna pass it, but technically it doesn't really matter. So the only thing you need to know is, you see here it says post and you see here it says get, you need to make sure that that matches up. So in the API docs for run actor synchronously and get dataset items, Appify is telling us you need to call this as a post endpoint. Okay, so then go into n8n and make sure that that links up. That's it. That's all you have to know about that. Don't worry about what they actually mean. Just understand that those have to be the same or you're probably going to run into issues. Now, authentication, we're actually going to set none here because Appify included it in the query parameters. So it included like token equals, Tommy's token or something. If you want to have more than one query parameter, you're going to add the ampersand here, and then you can start another thing. So like another param, and that equals 1, 2, 3. So you can add multiple parameters in the URL. Note that in n8n, you can send query parameters directly here. So that would be the same if we said like token equals Tommy's token, and then if we add on, another param and make it 1, 2, 3, n8n can handle that for you. Now we get to the body. You can ignore the headers for now. Just note that the headers are other sets of key value pairs that are separate from the query parameters. A lot of times, you're going to send like an API key here for the authentication. So in this case, Appify, the way that they do authentication is you send the API key in the query parameter, which means in the URL. Optionally, for some other APIs, you would send it in the header. And sometimes you can send either. So that's going to be up to you to read the documentation or have ChatGPT help you. Now the body, this is where things get interesting. So remember when we were over here and we were saying, oh, well, like the parameters for the actor are this JSON object. Well, that JSON object is going to go in the body. So when we're putting this request together, you have a few things. First, you could do using fields below. So we could go over here and do this. Okay, include web results, that's going to be false. We add a new parameter. We could go language, that's going to be, you know, en. So this will definitely work. But as you can see, there's like 15 fields, and I don't want to copy and paste them all over. I don't want to make you guys watch. So instead of saying use body below, you can just say use JSON. And so that means we can go over here, we can copy this guy, and then we can put it in here. And then that is going to send the JSON body along with our request. Now, the nice thing about doing this too is we can actually go in here and use our n8n variables to construct this. So we want this to be places of interest, so we're going to put that in here. And then if we look where it says Los Angeles, you know, we can change the location to be coming from our input here. Cool. So then you would just test the step, and that's actually going to make, okay, so it's not valid JSON. That's kind of funny, actually. What's going on? Aha, okay, so this is in the wrong place. Weird bug with n8n. Okay, anyway, now we test the step, and now it's actually going to make a request to Appify, and we can confirm this is working because we actually go and we'll notice that we have a run that's running right now that was triggered, and it looks like it's about to be finished. I will also point out that back on the JSON front, this table can just be JSON as well. So anything that you can put into a Google Sheet or Airtable, you could download that as JSON. Anyway, that is a crash course overview for everything you need to know about JSON and HTTP requests. Understanding these fundamental concepts is really going to level up the type of workflows you can create in n8n. If you're interested in more n8n tutorials, if you're ready to take it further, build more and more sophisticated workflows, check out these other videos on my channel. Also, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm putting out content like this every single week for you guys. Thank you and have a great day.